This episode is proudly supported by OpenTable.
Nearly 1/3 of diners are booking same day. So they're making those decisions on the spot. And 10% are making their bookings within just a few hours. And so it's why it's so important to have booking software like OpenTable, which allows your diners to discover you. And so when restaurants are on platforms like OpenTable, they're much more likely to be discovered. We help diners to connect to restaurants. Ultimately, having technology, using technology, helps you to reattach to those diners.
Experience the power of OpenTable. For an exclusive offer, visit restaurant.opentable.com.au/DITW.
I love being a chef. I'm a for lifer in this industry, and I love what cooking brings to people, the joy it brings to people. Like, I've had friends of mine propose in restaurants I've worked in and just want to be a part of that. Yeah, like it's beautiful to actually get everyone involved.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. The Mornington Peninsula has become an incredible food bowl. Not just an array of amazing producers, but a throng of restaurants that have made it become an idyllic place to live and visit too. What is it like being part of the evolution of this incredible region? Nick Deligiannis is the head chef of Audrey in the Mornington Peninsula. Nick, how are you?
Good, thank you, Huck. How are you?
Good. It's great to get you on the show. The Mornington Peninsula has really blossomed. It's quite amazing what's going on there. Tell us a little bit about what it's like there at the moment.
Yeah, it's come such a long way in recent years, especially after lockdown. It's a beautiful place to live and work. Honestly, it feels like you're not even in the country. To be honest, sometimes it's just it's just surreal. Some days the views of the ocean and producers that you're using, like it's second to none. Honestly.
Well, tell us a bit about the restaurants and sort of some of the offerings that are around, sort of what you're doing and what the attractions are for everyone.
Yeah, well, so at Audrey's, we're pretty much at the end of the peninsula. We're in Sorrento, so there's only really port cities straight after us. But we're focusing on seafood, essentially. So we're a seafood coastal restaurant in Sorrento. We're based in the middle level of the Continental Sorrento, the recently refurbished one. So we're only about a year old, and after a 4-year build, it was we decided to really go for it and display what the peninsula has to offer when it comes to seafood. So using, local divers in the area, little farms. Sounds very cliche, but we're really focusing on that local supplier and producers. But that doesn't mean we disregard the rest of the country when it comes to seafood. I'm not stupid enough to not use Tasmanian sea urchins or, the North Queensland coral trouts and bluefin yellowfin tunas, you really got to, play with your guns.
There is extraordinary, as you say, seafood across the country, but what's really sort of stands out in that region for you? Is there one or two sort of species that you love to use in the restaurant that are from the region?
So we use a whole lot of squid. Our signature dish is a little squid noodle number. So we use a lot of squid out of Corner Inlet, King George whiting, a lot of rock flatheads as well, and just recently stopped using the lakes entrance John Dory's. They've been looking absolutely beautiful. Some of the biggest John Dory's I've seen in a long time. So yeah, we're working quite closely with our suppliers just to get as close to home as possible. It's just when you have such fish like that, it's just amazing, honestly.
What's the approach with the menu? It's obviously seafood focused, but what's the inspiration and what are you doing there?
So pretty much the brief is as tasty as we can without sort of jeopardizing the product. So if that means we're just baking a piece of King George whiting, that means we're just going to bake the big piece of King George whiting with an iceberg blanc. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to give Sorrento and the Mornington Peninsula that little bit of luxuriousness when it comes to premium products. Caviar, beurre blanc, sea urchin. I feel like that's what Sorrento was a bit missing. There's plenty of pubs and those casual diners, but that little touch of class was a bit absent in the on the coast here. So, we don't really have the winery attached like most restaurants do down here. There'll be a point of layers, your 10 minutes with tractors. We don't have that, so we really have to rely on our skill set as chefs and as front of house workers. So we sort of just need to really, really do the simple things well, and that's what gets people coming back.
Are there challenges in creating dishes that are so simple? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. There is honestly, there's a very fine line between keeping things simple and classy, and they're just being lazy. So it's So some people really do appreciate the fact that we are just doing an oyster with caviar or doing a piece of fish with beurre blanc. And it's our job to teach people, okay, this is how it's really supposed to taste, or this is how it's supposed to, look. And I find great pleasure in teaching people and stimulating people in that way. Although, yeah, you do have the people who come in every now and then who are just like, oh, is that just a piece of raw fish on my plate? I'm like, yep. That's the best raw fish on your plate, so you better enjoy it.
Yeah, well, it sounds good to me. I want to explore sort of what you're doing there, because it's got such an amazing history as well, the building, a little bit later on. But take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play for you growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in quite a big Greek family. And my parents and my grandparents always had businesses in hospitality. Not as grand as restaurants, but, milk bars, pizza shops, more, your suburban, eateries. So pretty much from the age of 6 to 8, I was working in kitchens, washing dishes, just getting things, just being a little, running around. Dad's screaming at me. I'm like, oh, okay, just run around, get the ham, get the pineapple, get this, So I think that really taught me a lot of work ethic, So it's working for Dad at such a young age, and Mum obviously being there, it was quite intense. But I think it's really paved the way for me forward.
You mentioned your Greek heritage. Is there any sort of feasts or dishes that you remember fondly that you can share with us from when you were growing up?
Well, I think being Greek, it's always around just actually went past Easter. So we've got Easter and Christmas where, the spit comes out. We get the lamb or the goat on the spit. It's turning for hours and hours and hours, just waiting for it to be ready. As kids, we just watch it for hours and when's this going to be ready? It's like when you're in the car saying, are you there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? But just like rotating lamb on hot coals, and then once it's ready, all the old boys get around it. They're carving it. They're eating a little bit of the skin. It's just it takes longer to actually carve it than to cook it. All these boys are they take it all for themselves. And then all the mums and aunties are inside making all your salads, all your desserts, or your baklava, your yellow burrito, all your classic Greek numbers, spanakopita, the bites. It's just it's glorious. Honestly, I love Easter, I love Christmas. For the culture, for the tradition, but mainly for the food.
When did you first start to sort of think you wanted to be a chef for a career?
I was very lucky actually, because I found out quite young that I wanted to be a chef. Working in kitchens, I always liked the chefs and the passion that everyone displayed. So I would have had to be 12, 13 years old when I was like, you know what, I want to do this, And then by that time, it sounds a bit cliche, but the first MasterChef series were coming out in Australia, and it was that time where, I would sit down in front of the TV and write notes, or, you get into the chefs that were opening restaurants in, it was the Calambarises, the Shane Delias, it was the Andrew McConnells, the Scott Pickett's, it was that generation of chefs coming up, they're obviously reaping all the rewards now, but back then they were fighting. they were trying to impress. And that generation was just it was amazing to be a fan of.
tell us about the sort of first steps into, working in a commercial kitchen. Where did you do your apprenticeship, and do you have any stories of what that was like?
Yeah, so I left school when I was 16, 17, and I walked into Jacques kitchen. It's not open anymore. But yeah, so in my school uniform, I had a little chat with whoever was organising the trials, and I walked into my school uniform. I was like, "Yeah, I'm here." And then Jacques there on the pass, and all these chefs are running around me. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so out of my depth here. Like, what am I doing?" But yeah, I walked into Jacques, and then I pretty much started on the Monday. So yeah, I left school, and then worked at Jacques, and then was mainly put at his bistro, because Bistro Jatan just opened as well. So it was quite good, because I had an opportunity to jump between the restaurants and actually learn, the serious fine dining side, 3-hat standard, and then you had the bistro as well. So I feel like I did my apprenticeship at 2 restaurants, but in 3 years, So I was quite lucky, and I love the fact that I got to do both during my apprenticeship, and I feel like a lot of people miss that nowadays. Either do one or the other. So I love the fact that, I got the opportunity to do both restaurants and both styles, because already I felt like I was so ahead of everyone else. So that was a very, very intimidating time in my life. I was so young and couldn't even drive, honestly. So I remember, this is a bit naughty, but I remember just waking up late. I missed my trains. So I was living in the western suburbs, missed my train. So I just took the L plates off my car and just drove to Paran. I'm like, I can't be late. I don't want to cop it. I just so frightened and scared. So yeah, underage driving. I don't permit it, but I had to do it.
Jacques Ramon's influence is astounding on the culinary landscape in Australia. Do you have any stories of what it was like working with him?
Well, the thing was, he was a, so iconic, and everyone who spoke to him with respect, and it was just amazing to be a part of that. With him screaming in half English, half French, I was like, what am I even getting in trouble for? I'm not even aware what I'm in trouble for, because I don't understand what he's yelling at me about. But the best thing about him was he was such a good person when it came to your personal life, and actually cared about you. You weren't actually an actual number. He actually cared for your individual person, asking about how my dad is, how my mum is, or, just actually caring about things. And, he's which I was actually surprised about, because I never thought that would be the case, because, I always heard these stories that, there'll be dictators and whatnot, but it was kind of the opposite. And obviously when he was in the mood, it was a bit of a, slap in the face, but he's good. I worked for him for quite a while. Going full, probably talk about that soon, but after my apprenticeship I came back to him as well, so that only speaks volumes of the man.
Before you did sort of return there, you spent a lot of time in the UK. Was it quite different for you over there? Take us to that time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So once I finished my apprenticeship, the decision was made. I was like, I'm going to London, because my head chef at the time, Steve Nelson, who now runs the Rec and the Paradise Valley and Emeralds, he worked in Edinburgh and London, so he always told me these are where the real cooks are. I'm like, okay. So I've always prided myself. I want to be one of those chefs that I'm a weapon in any kitchen. I was always about being an asset. So I want to be an asset. I want to be an asset to any kitchen I walk into. So I went to London, walked in. And then I pretty much organised my trials before I was even in the country. So I flew into London Boxing Day 2015 or 16, and then I had a trial on 27th pretty much. So I was there. I flew in to Heathrow, got to the hostel, and then the next morning I was working in a Michelin star restaurant. I was like, okay, cool, I'm here now. I'm here now. There's no going back. So I've spent all my money getting here. So as you know, apprentices, we're not rolling in it. We're not chippies or plumbers. we're struggling. So it was I was in London in late December, just after Christmas. It's 1 degree. And then I went to a restaurant called the Glass House in Kew, So that was run by the Shea Bruce group in the UK. And yeah, I ended up working there for 5 months. It was actually a nice step to get to like getting myself into that London sort of habits of things, because it is a very different style of cooking down there. It's much more aggressive, much more every man for himself sort of thing. So yeah, it's a very different way of cooking, but I really enjoyed my time there. Made some good friends. Like I've actually got chefs that work for me now that I met at the Glass House. So it's a beautiful place to actually like start. Once I sort of got too comfortable there, like I've always had this fear of being stagnant. So I moved straight out there, and I just moved into another Michelin-star restaurant called Pollen Street Social. Where I stayed there for quite some time. It was a very, very different mindset in that kitchen. We're doing 120 for lunch, 120 for dinner, a la carte tasting menu, vegetarian a la carte, vegetarian tasting. So it was like, it's unheard of nowadays. You won't see a lot of restaurants that do that. But it was run by Jason Atherton, who is pretty much a mogul now in the UK and around the world. Got restaurants all over the world, in Greece, in Dubai, everywhere. There's one in Sydney as well. But it was very, very aggressive way of learning. I kind of learned how to cook, but I sort of learned how to not what I didn't want to be as well. So I learned, okay, I'm not going to treat people like that, and I'm not going to, I'm not just going to do the things that make my staff lives harder, essentially. So it's a very different way of cooking. But again, kids like that definitely form you into this absolute animal of a cook. And it's good. It's good to see people with skill like that sort of skill level. But it takes a lot away from the actual person itself. But
for decades now, the UK has kind of been seen as a rite of passage for young chefs to then come back to Australia after earning their stripes. But how do you feel about that these days, given the evolution within Australia and the UK?
I still think it's a beautiful way to learn about the world, because like, I have friends there now, and it's changed a lot. They're doing the 3.5 day weeks, they're 4 day weeks. There's no more 5 doubles in a row. It's moving forward, but I really feel like the people in London, the standards of fine dining are much higher, so it's important for people to see that. It's important for people to see different food, different ingredients, like, just the actual ingredients themselves. Like if you've cooked all your life in Australia and you've only used Australian scallops, for example, like you'd think they wouldn't be any bigger than a 20-cent coin. But you go to London and you get Cornish scallops or something like that. They're almost like they're a tennis ball. They're massive. Like things like halibuts and monkfish, and you can get these things in Australia, but like you can't get them from down the road. So. And it just teaches you such, it's experience that you can't buy. You just cannot buy. The fish delivery comes at night, not in the mornings. You just learn how to, navigate service better because it's more aggressive, faster, more technical. Because Australia's going through their fine dining is much simple. It's pulled back. It's much lighter sauces, less components. Wherever there, it's component heavy. The sauces are thicker. Actually, in Europe, they enjoy chewing more. So, you find less premium cuts on menus, where, in Australia, I find that like people don't really like it sounds stupid, but like chewing, they don't understand the aspect of like, okay, an octopus is actually supposed to be a little bit chewy, or it's just like a lamb rump isn't supposed to be as tender as a fillet, so I think the UK sort of understand that, and they're sort of it's a very different way, different customer.
How did it feel when you returned to Australia? What was it like for you?
Oh yeah, it was it took a while to sort of get back into the slower way of life, but I think everyone sort of told me I just looked like a ghost essentially, so it was But honestly, I wouldn't take it back for anything. But yeah, just going back into the sort of rhythm of things, Australian cooking, and you just take what, like, I've learned in this industry, you take what you can and you leave what you don't really need, you know. So I took what I needed to take from cooking overseas, and now it's, you know, I'm at a good level where I understand the importance of cooking great, but obviously treating people with respect, and, you know, managing people is a big part of the job nowadays.
What did you do when you returned?
When I returned, I went back to the Ramons to just help out, get some money in the bank, and, you know, just get back into the rhythm of things. And I didn't want to lock myself into a job straight away. But then, the Stephen Nelson, who I just spoke about, he opened up the recreation in Fitzroy North. So a bistro bottle shop with a wood fire grill, you know, one of those Argentinian grills that go up and down. And we opened that in the early December, I think, of that year. And was there for about 18 months. I've always, it was a very small kitchen. There was only the three of us in the kitchen. And by that time next year, we got our first hat. So it was very, very exciting. It was a great place to work, and that was my first sous chef job as well. So I went from, I was 20, I just turned 22. So it was great to be a leader instead of a minion, which was great. So but again, it was a very small kitchen, but we worked hard, and like we were very close, and like we all just worked for just wanted the same goal, and it was just a great place to be. And to be fair, the front of house was great as well. We had Mark and Joe there, who were great mentors even to this day.
You moved to the Mornington Peninsula a few years ago originally. Tell us about why and how that happened.
Yeah, so after my time at the rec, I was just looking for a change. You know, I'd been in cities. I've been in London. I've been in Melbourne. I've just been in these very heavy populated areas for so long that I just wanted a regional change. And then I saw that 10 Minutes by Tractor was looking for a CDP or junior sous, so I applied for that. But then as soon as I applied, the fire happened down there that closed them for 2 years pretty much, which was very, very unfortunate. So I didn't really hear anything from them until about a month later, where they're like, okay, well, we're all at Petty Tractor, their bistro that's literally down the road. So I went there, and, you know, there was all this promise that we're going to open in 6 months, but, you know, obviously we know the world is what it is, so it took a bit longer than that. So that's where I met Adam Sanderson, who was the head chef of 10 Minutes and Petty Tractor, and then we sort of just like went through the process of designing menus for the opening of 10 Minutes by Tractor, and whilst running a bistro as well. So it was quite hands-on. The workload was quite high, but we had a really good young team there as well. It was great to just be in Red Hill. You know, we're on the peninsula. You know, it's where I got to meet like actual suppliers that I use today. You know, that early stage of becoming a chef, and sorry for that. It's just being that chef that can talk to the local producers and the suppliers, and just be confident with cooking in such a regional area.
What impact did it have on your cooking and your food, sort of being in that regional area? I
think just with working with Adam was quite bizarre, because we were focusing on regional cooking. But with his resume, like, we're cooking Scandinavian food, English food. Yeah, we'll just like, he really opened my eyes up to using vegetables. You know, so using vegetables on the peninsula is the best, because we literally had a lumber farm around the corner. We had mossy willow back in the day. Like, we're literally pulling the carrots to the ground. We're picking the herbs. We're picking the baby mandarins, the sugar plums. We're going there and we're getting them. You know, so it really opened my eyes to like not forget about, but push your back straps and your sirloins to the side, and maybe just work on this beautiful parsnip, or work on this, this courgette, or, it's look at all these punnets of different flowers and herbs and red currants, and honestly, you just want to take a picture before you do. You just want to it just looks beautiful. The colours. You also just want to sit there and just be in awe. It's just some beautiful ingredients.
You forged an amazing relationship with the Ramon family over the years and returned to the fold with Frederick. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I was 24, I got approached by them, and every time, I've always been in contact with the Ramons because I've just they've been really, really good to me. So I just thought it was going to be an everyday conversation, but then they're like, okay, how do you feel about being a head chef at Frederick? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I sort of just jumped at the chance. I've always wanted to run my own kitchen, so I was quite young, and like being 24 and being a head chef in Melbourne, like you're looking at, people look at you like he's not ready, So I really thought I was ready, cooking like skill level wise, like my skills, like I was very confident in my ability to cook for people, but what I didn't know was the actual like management of people, and the actual running of a restaurant is very different to actually just cooking for it. But yeah, it was great. We opened up 2019, I believe, and we had a great opening. We had a quality 6 months of cooking before obviously COVID happened. So we were really in this big sort of business, and we're pumping. We have a lot of staff. We're doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We got baristas. It's just people. We've got a lot of people working for us, and like it's going well. We're busy, and then it just got nipped in the butt essentially when COVID happened, and it was really unfortunate. But to the Ramon's credit, every full time staff didn't lose a job. We're all there. We were doing Providor through lockdown, through the Jatan restaurants. But yeah, like we're quite lucky to actually be paid and, keep all our staff. So when we did reopen for those months inside COVID, those openings, we were staffed up. We weren't desperate for staff, and then by the time COVID did open up finally, and then we had another few months of trade, again, we were staffed up, and I was quite happy with the fact that we had our team and our core team always there. As a matter of fact, I've left Frederick for the past, it's been 3 years almost, and every head chef that's worked there was in my team, essentially. So when I left, my sous chef Mark, he took the ladder. Now that Mark's left, Kyle's taken the ladder, which he was my CDP, and now he's the head chef there. So it's good to see that the team there have really taken their opportunities, and now they're all succeeding.
The last couple of years have been quite tricky for everyone, and particularly those in hospitality. Has it had an impact on you?
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing I took out of it was you just can't take it for granted what you have, essentially. So if you're in a beautiful restaurant, cook like it's going to be your last week at the restaurant. Everything was sort of taken away from us. It was my first head chef job. I wanted to make a name for myself, and that was literally just taken away from me. So I cook now like it's going to be my last week cooking in a restaurant. Yeah, and it's really paid dividends of late because I can see people are happier. I can see staff are happier, getting more recognised. I guess I get it that being recognised isn't everything, but it's quite important in this industry if you want to make a name for yourself. And yeah, just cook like you never have.
You've been working with Scott Pickett for a few years now. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah, so the opportunity to work at the Conti, I literally saw an ad on Instagram. They had a render of the Conti on Instagram. I was like, you know what, that looks amazing. And it said Scott Pickett driven, and he's always been quite an idol of mine from when I was an apprentice, as I said, even before that. So I wanted to take that leap and get into a big operation, and I sort of wanted to go back into fine dining as well. because Frederick was just a purely a la carte restaurant. So, applied for the Conti job, and pretty much got into contact with the executive chef at the time, which was Tony Panetta. I think you spoke to him last week, and got into contact with Tony, spoke to Tony, and then had a meeting with Scott, and pretty much got offered the job. There and then, essentially. So it was a very quick process. I think by the time I applied and had received the job was about 48 hours. So it was quick. And then pretty much, got in. So obviously it wasn't open, so we were based at Estelle for the most part of it, because there was major delays in the build. So I pretty much started running Estelle for a few months, from pretty much when we opened in lockdown November till the February. I was at Estelle, and we did the big, probably one of the biggest summers of my life there, and because I was just out of COVID, essentially. It was great being there with Scott, because I understood what he wanted out of a restaurant. Obviously it wasn't the restaurant that I wanted to be cooking in, but I was there to learn and to understand what he wanted out of a business.
Scott's a friend of the show. We've had him on a few times, and he's quite a charismatic personality. What's he like to work with?
Yeah, I find him quite easy to work with, to be honest. He's a great mentor, very firm but very fair, as we say, and just knows how to operate a business. And to be fair, I just soak up as much as I can, to be honest. Obviously it's frustrating sometimes as a young cook to just be told what to do, but you just take it as it comes. And he's got into a position through some sort of hard work, so you have to respect that. And my ego isn't that big, so I just don't listen to people anymore. If you're respected within this industry, I'll listen to you. And he's just just a great person, to be honest. It's a pleasure to work for him. And he had given the opportunity to open up Audrey's, which we did this time last year. It was our first birthday a couple of weeks ago. So Audrey's was just a big thing. And then the team has done so well. We've pretty much kept we've pretty much kept 80% of our opening team for a whole year, and that's been great. It's been great.
You're one of the rare chefs that have won Victorian Young Chef of the Year with the Age Good Food Guide. What did that feel like?
It was just I didn't know how to react to it, honestly. Going through the whole nomination process and going there on the night, because we received the hat first, which was great, and everyone was up and about, and then I received the Young Chef of the Year award, and it's really kicked off. It was just amazing to have a whole team there, and honestly a lot of hard work, and paid off. And I'm grateful for everyone that works around me, and to be recognized within the actual industry, it's a dream come true, honestly. And again, it doesn't really make your life easier. It just makes your life, you just got to work harder, now you need to keep that momentum going. And, the sky's the limit within Audrey's in that room. I'd love to keep going and, allow everyone to grow together, essentially.
Your dedication to that sort of sophistication and simplicity at Audrey's is amazing. Do you have a dish or two that really exemplifies kind of your cooking and what you're doing there?
So Scott and I were discussing a dish that even before we opened, and pretty much has not left our menu since. It's the Mornington Peninsula squid noodles with the shiitake mushroom XO that has not left the menu in a year. So we've done a lot of squid noodles, but the best thing about being a seafood restaurant is I'm changing the menu weekly. So it really depends on our fish options at the time. We do a whipped cod roe crumpet in our snacks with faux bacon seasoning. We do a lot of barbecued scallops. The fish, we just finished doing some coral trout from northern Queensland with some beautiful, the last of the tomatoes and yellow zucchinis that are coming through. With our lakes entrance John Dory, we used to pan roast that to a crispy skin, did a pine mushroom, Moreton Bay bug and chicken garnish with it. So yeah, not really afraid to incorporate meat into the fold when it comes to our seafood cooking, because obviously as beautiful meat is, like, I think the bones and the sauces that meat give to the fish dishes are quite, counterbalancing. It helps the coating of your mouth, the fattiness, because sometimes fish dishes you can eat them, then you sort of forget about them. So keeping that flavor inside the guest's mouth really helps them remember your food, and gives a little bit of complexity to the dish as well.
Well, Nick, you're doing amazing things. What do you love about what you do?
Oh, everything. I love being a chef. I'm a for lifer in this industry, and I love what cooking brings to people, the joy it brings to people. Like, I've had friends of mine propose in restaurants I've worked in, and just want to be a part of that. Yeah, like, it's beautiful to actually get everyone involved. Like, it's one thing in the industry is where my friends and family can be involved. I can feed my friends and family. I can travel wherever I want to, and I'll always have a job. Everyone needs chefs. Everyone needs to be cooked for. And yeah, because, like, for example, if I was building a house, not every day I'll build a house for my best friend. But I can cook a meal for my best friend every day if you really wanted to. So it's one of those industries where it's just about togetherness and being hospitable, and just creating those memories, those core memories. That's what I love about this industry.
Well, Nick, it's an absolute honour to catch up with you today and hear part of your story. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Absolutely, Huck. Thank you very much for having me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.